Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, thanks for asking me to be here.
Okay, so I want to know the usual artist question. How old were you when you decided that art was a career?
So I decided to get good at drawing, or I wanted to get good at drawing about when I was 6 years old. And then when I was seven, the red box set came out for D&D and Larry Elmore's cover, and I was like, I'm going to be an illustrator because
So,
I want people to pay me to do dragons.
so Dungeons and Dragons had been there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It was formative for you. That's interesting. Now, was it tricky being around that time, I guess, being a girl interested in fantasy illustration? Was it a tougher fight for you to get into the realm of the profession when you were first starting out? And I am very curious about that for historical context, because I don't think a lot of younger artists realize that there are, people like you who have blazed paths.
Yeah, I would say it was a lot harder. I mean, first of all, even if it's just as an interest, and as a player, it was difficult because they wanted you to act a certain way. They wanted you to be what they thought a girl should be.
And what would that be? What's like an example of how a quote unquote girl should act?
Well, they should be kind of like kind, excited in family planning. Like,
Oh,
yeah, like really boring for me stuff. Like, because I was into like reading mythology. I loved Egyptian mythology and Greek mythology, and I loved fairy tales and folk tales, and I wanted to know about everybody's ancient cultures.
and that's not how a lady acts, is it? That's not what a lady likes, right?
Apparently, it's just too nerdy.
I mean, I'm glad that it's come around. It really am, that now that being a nerd is a badge of honor, because it wasn't always, but now it's like, if you're not a nerd, you're kind of a loser. I mean, in my opinion, I think nerds are just people who are they have a very specific like focus of interest that they are good at or passionate about. That's just what a nerd is, right?
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
And so, was it always animals for you? I mean, I know that mermaids and animals I see as are like those are some big, like, I would say, archetypes. Would that be the correct word to use? Archetypes that you go for. But what age were you when your style started to pop? I saw some of your early stuff, like with the Cthulhu games, and it's a different artist than the one that I see today. The art that I see today, it's especially on your magic cards. When I first saw it, I thought, wow, Jesus, this stuff just really pops.
Oh,
So when do you think you got that style down? When do you think you got the Rhonda Libbey style?
I mean, when I think back along all those lines, I can certainly see the common threads, but there was definitely a formative piece. There was like this really big mermaid. It was a very big painting, and she's got like a big fish behind her. And when I did that piece, I was just kind of used to. It was like 2015 when I did that piece, and I was getting into using gold leaf and a whole bunch of other things. So I guess my decision was to paint what I wanted to see instead of trying to paint what I thought our art directors wanted to see. And I was so happy when I was painting it. I was literally crying, and I was just
Wow.
yeah. And so I was like, well, whatever this is what it's going to be, and it's probably going to cost me like all of the illustration clients I've ever had. And for a while, it did.
And yet it didn't. It didn't cost you. I think it probably opened the doors pretty wide for you, didn't it?
It did.
Would it be safe to say that if you were to give advice to younger artists, would you say that be yourself regardless of what is anticipated of you? Is that something that you would say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Whatever you are interested in, whatever really you feel you feel like this is the way forward. This is what is really calling to you. Do that. Do that for a while. Explore that path and see where it takes you. Because when you really enjoy it, when you really love it, everyone else is going to see that in the work, and they're really going to connect with it and feel the same thing you feel.
Right, right. The gold leaf thing, that's fascinating. Like that was not always something that you worked with. It was something you discovered later on.
Mhm.
How does one discover that? I mean, and what really, honestly, how do you do it? I mean, like in my mind, I'm picturing, this is simpleton. I'm picturing an actual gold leaf. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He's apparently protecting the castle. He's a Shih Tzu. Um, uh, but I picture just like like an actual gold leaf. I know it's very thin gold, but
Mhm. Actually, I
what's the process?
right here. So basically, the process. Well, let's start with the reason why I use it, because it is intentional. I want when I was working with this stuff to like when I was trying to nail down what I really wanted to do, what I really felt moved to do. Gold leaf became part of it then because I wanted to make work that was almost like an experience for someone to see it in person. And, we can see it online, we can see it in photos, and that's fine. But when you see it in person, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, look at it.
Right.
Changes as I move around the piece.
It dances.
Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes I'll paint color over gold. And so if you see in this piece here, it's shining not too great right now, but that red it's all gold.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
so in bright light, it kind of glows.
And so, did you go to like traditional art school to learn how to do that, or was that something you just sort of picked up?
It is something I picked up. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I went out and bought all the supplies and I just did it. And I did it bad until I did it good.
And how long did you do it bad until you were good? How long did that take?
Well, I think because I've been an artist for over 30 years, I didn't exactly start out like on like page one with it. So there are
Right. Okay. Yeah.
skills that kind of helped. But I mean, like this is what I use. Gold leaf,
It looks like
and
chocolate.
yeah, it's just like a box, and then kind of comes in a thing like this.
Is it expensive? Like, what is
It
that
is.
kind of? What
It
is?
can
I mean,
be.
it's gauche. I know it's gauche to ask, but like, what does that run? Like a
So I bought my last batch a few years ago, and I got like the most amount of it. I spent like $500 on it, and this is what one of the leaves of gold looks like. And this is on transfer leaf. So sometimes it doesn't come on transfer leaf and you have to use like fancy stuff like a gilder's tip, which is like a brush that uses static electricity to apply.
wow. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And then
So,
I'll burnish it down and seal it so it won't get scuffed.
so what was your first paid gig? Like as an
Oh,
artist, when did you first like? When were you able to declare on your taxes that you were an
oh
artist?
okay. Well, I would have to say if we're going with taxes as the benchmark, then that was probably while I was still in art school. I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh and I majored in illustration. But I was doing some freelance work then. So um, technically, I guess you could say that was, 95, 94.
Wow.
So
Okay. So, I mean, it is it. Does it not seem? It doesn't seem that common for students to be getting hired while they're still in school. What was the project? Do you remember what the project was that you got? I mean, how did you? Were you just so stellar that your professors recommended you for a gig? How did you land it?
well, they did have like a job office. So they had like a big binder full of people who wanted to hire um, a student if they could for something. So they might have like this job is designing a set of business cards. This job is for a caricature of the owners of this pub, and then they want to be on like a t-shirt or something like that. So, you know, you can leaf through, see what you want, copy down the information, and contact them. And if they like you and you like them, then you do the job. So that's kind of how that went.
Is that still the case today? Do you know? I mean, is that a an option for students now, or is that I would imagine the market's much more saturated.
Well, the market's definitely different, and including the Art Institute of Pittsburgh is gone. Like that school does not exist anymore.
Oh, that's sad.
So yeah, it is pretty sad. When I went, there were some really good teachers, and certainly made a lot of friends there.
Do you still keep in touch with any of those teachers that you've had? I mean, were
I do.
you know? Yeah, I bet there's a certain amount of pride that they have knowing that their students go on to become working artists.
Definitely.
If I mean, it would be teaching art. I know that you don't necessarily have to do that because you are able to, have your career as an artist. But teaching art, it seems like you would be, because looking at your website, you just the simple breaking down of your process. Is that something that you would consider doing if you had the time? Let's say.
Absolutely. I would absolutely do that. I mean, I simply don't know where to do it or how to present that. But if people really wanted to learn from me, give me a place and I will put together some classes.
I feel like Patreon might be a good place for you to do that. I mean, like you could, I mean, like it's certainly, that would be, I've seen a lot of people do that. Or was that Muddy Waters? I think they do that kind of stuff.
Maybe.
But so when you first started working as an artist, well, like I'm assuming you had to, I mean, was your family supportive of you? Did you have a good backing up, or what was that like as far as family support for your artists? Did you have people around you that were pro, or were people who were just, maybe negative or unsure about the career that you were choosing?
Well, that's, faceted. That my parents were mostly, they were good with it. They didn't want to get in my way. And my brother is also an artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we didn't have any pro artists in our family, so we were kind of forging new territory. Our parents didn't know what to tell us.
So. Wow, yeah, having two at once, yeah, that's pretty. It's sort of like you can. I mean, one you can say, I don't know, but if you got two of them, it's like you're outnumbered.
Yep.
Who is the older one, you or him?
He is.
So did he impart wisdom to you that helped you get into the profession that you maybe would not have had otherwise?
Well, when we were younger and we were learning to draw, like we would experiment and share ideas back and forth. So we learned like some of the early stages, the formative stuff, around the same time, and we really helped each other grow at that time. But as far as like the rest goes, like I mean, he works more in graphic design than I do. I did work as a designer and an art director for a while, but so I mean. Yeah,
And when you did art direction, what was that for specifically?
It was for the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust and the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, that's intense. Mm-hmm. So a lot of very officious things, a lot of I'd imagine classical looking.
Yeah, a lot of brochures and 3-sheet posters, which would go outside the theaters, and lots of magazine ads, paper ads, all sorts of stuff like that.
When you broke into fantasy, when was was it The Mermaid? That's when you knew that that was the moment you knew you made it. I mean, I know that was the moment where you had the breakthrough of discovering your style, but when did you know that this fantasy artwork that you do, the thing that defines you, was profitable in a way that was sustainable?
That's a difficult question because a lot of it hasn't been super profitable over the years. But I always viewed it as the long game. You just keep trying. I mean, I guess a lot of us have to be willing to take big risks in order to see it pay off at all. So.
And tell me, like as an artist, what is a big risk? What would be a big risk that you took that was something that paid off?
I would say, well, like even going to a convention can be a pretty big risk because that can be an expensive thing. It can be like around $3,000 a convention. And if you don't even break even and you're not making a lot of money, that's a pretty big deal.
When did you first officially become connected with Wizards of the Coast? How did that go down?
So I've been talking to some of the art directors just casually before. I went and actually met with Zach Stella many years ago. I would say probably in 2017 or something like that, or 2018. And, we talked, but there wasn't really much. They were still kind of dedicated to their sort of look that they had been using for a while, I think.
Like that ultra realism kind of.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, it's cool, but my stuff certainly didn't match it. So I think that they waited till just the right time. And my first breakthrough project was commissioned by Sarah Wassel, and Cynthia Shepard told her to check out my work. And it was the Streets of New Capenna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you get someone like Cynthia Shepard saying, check this out, that's a ringing endorsement. I mean, both Zach Stella and Cynthia, that to me, I'd love to talk. I mean, it's like everyone I talk to, they're legendary.
Yeah, they're really sweet.
So when you got the email that you were officially, did they write you to say that they were interested? How did I love these stories. I love the moment where you get the email that's Wizards is sent and is letting you know that there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the email was from Sarah Wassel, and so it was kind of like a, hey, do you have any time in your schedule for a magic card? It's like, oh yes, I do.
What was your first card?
It was the crew captain.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of like I have an AP here, just in case. So it's this lady.
I love the like the hint of the Rosie the Riveter that we got going on, and it's elucidated to that. What did the brief? What did it say? I mean, did it say, go with your style, or did it? I mean, how did it ring out? Because it's so unique compared to, because I mean, again, Magic did become a little I don't want to say like it wasn't that it wasn't that it was sort of just like kind of like monochrome, but in a sense it was just it didn't change for a while, and then all of a sudden it was very explosive with letting other people who had really unique forms of styles in. So I'm curious about the briefs. Like, what did your brief say, and how much of freedom did you get as an artist to put things into your world?
So the brief said, so the crew captain, we want a lady who looks like she could hold her own in a fight. She's got a lot of swagger. We want her to be holding an I-beam on her shoulder. Like, I was thinking, I-beam, oh, do they know how heavy those are? Yeah, so, and they said, and we'd like it if she looked Asian, or a little bit Asian, so I was like, okay, I can do that. I'll give you all the swagger.
And am I wrong in saying that there is a little bit of Rosie the Riveter inspired in there, like a little like homage to her?
A little bit. It wasn't super intentional, but I mean, I live in Pittsburgh, so that is everywhere. All the steel industry,
right?
Pretty much everywhere.
Right. that and the Living Dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going into Magic, and then Bloomborough comes along, and that's got to be like, I mean, if there was a set that was made for you, like I'd say Bloomborough is. I love Otterball Antics. It is one of the like it's such a joyful piece. I mean, tell me you had fun creating. I mean,
I did. I had a lot of fun with that one. I wasn't sure at first, like whether he should actually be like catching the ball or just kind of like going like, yeah, like, because I think the original name of the card was Otterball Recruitment. So I was like, is he walking through the stands? What's happening here? So, but we got it turned around, and that's what we went with.
And because last night we went to go see Alien Romulus, and they had this ad for the new Lion King movie, and it's this like, ultra realistic, CG lions that are talking, and I think to myself, just like, it doesn't work. But with animation and with drawings like yours, it works. I mean, seeing a laughing otter, you're like, oh, this that you can anthropomorphize so much better. And why do you think that is? I'm curious. Like, do you think that there is an explainable reason behind that? Like, why seeing it CGI, it's odd versus something like one of your pieces where it just it fits in remarkably. You're laughing with the otter as it goes on.
So, I mean, I can't speak to the CGI very much because I don't make that kind of art. But when I do a piece, I think about like, what emotion do I really want the person who's looking at it to feel? And what sort of ideas do I want to convey with it? There's a dragon like spot illustration I did a long time ago. And I used the body language of a dog because I wanted it to feel loyal.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so
Yeah,
instead of doing a play bow, you know.
it's so
Um,
interesting that you Todd Lockwood actually did when he did a dinosaur painting. He used a dog to create the sitting position of the dinosaur to
mhm,
make the dinosaur seem friendly. So that's a crafty move that you got
mhm.
going on there.
Thanks. Yeah, and even with Ruthless Negotiations, that piece, it was the working title was totally different. But so like the two characters in it are actually inspired by two of my ferrets.
Yeah,
And
you have ferrets. I was going to ask about that. What's I mean, why ferrets? What's I mean, was there just a love for them forever? I mean, I've never had a ferret. I they're cute, but aren't they like they're wild though, aren't they? Like kind of.
they're not wild at all. There's like
Oh, they're
zero
not. Okay.
percent wild. No, they're smarter than some small primates, and so that's a big thing adjustment for the people need to know about them. So
Oh,
they're not really
really?
like dogs. They're not really like cats. They're their own thing. But they are absolutely like living with little mischievous fairies and Muppets rolled into one being, and they're a lot of fun. But they're alive.
How long do they live for?
They live typically 7 to 10 years,
Oh,
which
wow.
isn't great. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the roughest part is like losing. It's like you're like, why can't they live for 40
I
years or
would be
something?
happy for dog years, honestly.
I got you. Yeah, no, I hear you on that one. Like, yeah, dog years is at least you get like usually like 10 out of them. That's yeah, that's tough. How long have you had? I mean, how old were you when you got your first otter? Or, I'm sorry, not otter, ferret.
Well, otters are in the same family of.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It's like basically
So,
an aquabound ferret, pretty much.
yep, yeah, I love all the animals in the weasel family tree. There's quite a
Oh,
lot
they're
of.
adorable. I mean, they're adorable. I mean, there's no
Mhm.
denying it.
Even wolverines are cute sometimes.
They are. Even yeah, they smile. Even they're. I mean, they're terrifyingly cute. But yeah, they're cute. Like I mean, but all mammals like are pretty cute, right? I mean, like in their own way, except for like the maybe not the duck-billed platypus, but in its own way, it's kind of cute.
It's got some cuteness, yeah.
They'll fuck you
Like
up
the
though. Like they'll fuck you up. They're apparently very aggressive. Like
duckbills,
they
yeah.
yeah. Like I guess if you like look like that and you're sort of this odd little thing in nature that didn't quite evolve properly, not
And
properly, but
you got little poison.
like quills on your thing, and you're still kind of part duck, but you're not. You'd have to be able to kick some ass because things are gonna try to eat you. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer your first question though, like when did ferrets become part of my life? It was probably about like 1998, 1999. And they're the only kinds of pets I've had since then. So
So do you have like a menagerie of pets?
nope, just ferrets.
Just ferrets? What are their
Mhm.
names? I'm curious.
So I have Geralt, I have Yennefer of Fuzzyburg. We call her Yanny.
Oh,
and
Fuzzyburg, yes, of course.
we've got Persephone, but we call her Sephi.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, yes, a Fuzzyburg. Yeah, no, my Shih Tzu's name is Nina Hagen Das La Gracie Butterfly Sun Tzu Alper. So it's
Nice.
yeah, I understand the strange pet names. Okay, so my thoughts on with artists is that I believe that there are bloodlines when it comes to art in a sense that like you have influences that are like maternal and paternal and grandmother, grandfather, as far as art goes, that people that you look up to, that you studied, that regardless of whether or not, conscious or unconscious, they sort of bleed out into the DNA of your work. Who would you describe as some of the people that influenced you in a way that have become part of your artistic DNA?
Well, definitely the whole Art Nouveau movement became a very early part of my DNA. The house I grew up in was a family house, and it was an old farmhouse. And so even in the woodwork, that was Art Nouveau.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And our family even had one small original by Mucha. So
Snap.
And so that was early on. And then I discovered like Albrecht Dürer and Da Vinci and a few other, historical types of artists. And then when I got a little older, of course, discovered Larry Elmore and artists from that circle. So.
And did you play Magic as well? I mean, how familiar were you with the game before you worked on it? Did you play it at all, or were you just somebody who admired the artwork tangentially?
So I admired the artwork when I was in the mid-90s, when I was going to the Art Institute, and mostly because I couldn't afford the cards.
Yeah, right. They're pricey.
But then afterward, me and a couple of friends, we got some of the cheaper, older cards, and we played. And I played probably till about maybe 2001, and just life got too hectic. So.
And what would you say? Is it strange to think now, because it is true, like looking back at all these artists that you admired, that now you are a contemporary, you are like, they are, so to speak, coworkers of yours. Like, how does that kind of hit you?
Sometimes it's just like, whoa, I'm completely disassociated here, and sometimes it really hits you, and it's sometimes really amazing. Like I've met Larry Elmore, and he's like super sweet, and now he sees me, he's like, hey girl, hey, and it's like, oh my god, like here's this guy. I was like, I want to be him when I grow up, and he's nice and friendly.
That's one thing I have to say about you artists that is exemplary as a type of people. You seem incredibly supportive of each other. When there is a community, and I can speak just from having interviewed Magic artists that you all seem to look out for one another, and I find that very wonderful, especially considering how competitive the arts can be.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us illustrators, we don't really see each other as competition, because our work all does different things. Like we might be working on the same project, but the work itself serves differently. So, you know what I mean? Like, so like what might be appropriate for somebody who works in more of like a monochrome style, like people wouldn't naturally think of my work, because that wouldn't make sense, right? So.
But at the same time, I mean, your work is it's distinct, like right away. I mean, the fish token, I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, how quickly did that sell? I mean, like that, like 5 minutes. I mean, it's beautiful. It is, and I mean, and the Finch formation. There's these. I haven't seen anything like that in Magic before. This sort of like this vibrant colors, the innocence, the playfulness of it. I mean, there have been vibrant colors and there has been playfulness, but yours is so unique. The brief has to be. I mean, does the brief say like do a colorful fish, or does it just say take it away, Rhonda? I mean, like,
well, that one was funny because the brief was, it's a good fish. It's a really good fish.
That's so awesome. Yeah, you made a really good fish. It is a really good fish. I mean, like, I want that. I want that fish. Like, I'll keep that fish. We'll become friends.
See,
I'll put it. It did. It worked. I mean, but then at the same time, like, what are the challenges? Like, okay, Ruthless Negotiation is a fantastic piece because it's so complicated, and it also you're using the animal skulls. That had to be your touch, right? Or was that part of the brief? I mean, did you no, that had to be you, right? Because that's your jam. I mean, we were talking about earlier behind you before we started recording that you actually have references of animal skulls. Yeah. So you get to add that in there, and what's that like when the art directors are like, yeah, let's go with it, like.
So it is wild because it's like I'm just like when I went to art school and I was learning, they said be a jack of all trades and a master of everything too. Like do it all, and being a mimic is going to be your best game plan for being an artist. And I found out that's absolutely not true in this day and age.
Yikes! Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like when I was doing other work for like Call of Cthulhu or Legend of the Five Rings, I still had in my mind that like I kind of had to like try to fit in and play with other people's style,
Right.
so I actually get the work. But
and I mean, you did a fine job. It's not that you didn't. I mean, you were absolutely delivering the goods, and in a way, I mean, it did pave a path for you to get, I guess, notice that you're in these games, your name's out there, but it's got to be tough to put yourself in a hidden box
yeah.
and do, because who's deciding it really? I mean, it's
Right.
sure, it's the art directors, but they can come and go. It's not really any one person, so it's almost like
Right.
everybody's imitating one another, but nobody's really giving it their
Right.
twist.
Yeah, and that's why it's like I think it's even more important to try to find your own path. Because one thing that I'm definitely like I'm still so new to working with magic, but I really love that like I was like, Zach, is it okay if I put like stylized clouds behind this bird, one of the finches that's flying? He's like, yes, go for it. Like,
I mean,
I
you're
was like,
gonna
okay.
you're gonna be getting a lot. I mean, like I do not doubt. I mean, I'm calling it already. You're gonna be a long time artist with them. It's like I can tell right away that just by like looking at your work, like it's your collection of cards is going to grow exponentially. In fact, I mean, I'm sure, I know you can't necessarily give away any specific information, but I'd imagine you're working on upcoming cards. I'd have to say. I'm thinking you might be. Am I wrong in guessing that?
Working on stuff, yes. I can't say what, of course.
But no, because I mean, it really is like it's such vibrant work. Now, the stuff that I'm interested by, the animals from the sketchbook of Rhonda Libbey, that's tell me a little bit about that. How do you go through a sketchbook, which I'd imagine is very personal, like a diary? It's almost,
Well, for me,
right?
my sketchbook isn't so much like a diary. Like when I
It
was
isn't.
younger, it might have been, but for me, it's like if I'm working out ideas or if I'm working through something, or I just it's not like this is a deeply personal moment. So I mean, this is the book you're talking about.
Yes, yes.
And so a lot of them on the inside are like that's curses. That's stupid screen. So anyway, a lot of them are basically drawings I use to plan out paintings.
Now, when you plan out paintings, do you have narratives that you write yourself too? Is there a storyteller side of yourself?
There is, yeah, there is quite a lot. Even if it's like, for example, um, a, a painting of a bird, we'll say a raven, and there might be a poem I have in mind that I just can't get out of my head, and it's not the Raven; it's a different poem. But I'm looking at a sketch right now. But anyways, I'm trying to describe that. So like, there's music to that poetry in my head.
Yes.
And I wanted to capture that. So I might think about like, well, what does this make me feel? So I'll make like a list of things, like what's the abstract of this to me, and I'll write myself like a little queue of notes, and then I'll say, well, what expresses this? Should there be flowers in this? What in Victorian times, flowers had meanings. And so do I think that's appropriate? And if so, then which flowers go in?
Do you put a lot of do you put any emphasis on, say, like Jungian dream analysis or things along those lines where you impart personal meaning into your paintings, as far as, like, I mean, do you hide things that are maybe secrets for you that you don't want the audience to know about, but you just have to get it out?
Hmm. No to the Jungian thing though, because like I think that everybody is their own best interpreter of their dreams,
Hmm.
and I don't think that there's any one way to look at it.
Right,
So,
right,
for example, if somebody's a herpetologist and they see a snake in a dream, it's going to mean something different than it does to somebody who really
right.
has no connection to them.
Well, the way that had always learned about Jungian dream analysis, the way that he told it, he said, like, he would be like, if you dream of a giraffe, you can't go to like a dream journal and say, what does a giraffe mean? Because there is no
Oh,
universal meaning. You have to go and say, what does it mean to me? And like, if you had an experience with your family where you got to pet a giraffe and it was a beautiful moment, that would be a completely different symbol than, say, your family was killed by a herd of stampeding giraffes. You know, it's
right.
sort of,
And
so that's what I think that what I meant by dream analysis, that it has to be a personal talisman, so to speak. So
yeah.
and so, but as you were saying to the second question, hidden meanings or hidden things. I mean, do you insert yourself? Because I do remember you mentioning in another interview that you've inserted some. I think you've inserted some poop into a project where it was a children's book maybe, and somebody was giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, I may have done
I
that.
love that. We're gonna have to talk about that in a minute,
Then
but
there was like a
inserting.
kid that was wearing a Joy Division T-shirt.
So, but back to the personal stuff. Like, is there anything that you'd be willing to, like? I don't know. I'm fascinated by this because I really do believe that even though I know a lot of artists can hold their meanings very private because they don't want it to, affect the viewer's point of view. I'm of the thought the process that I can hold my own interpretation of the painting and still have room for what the artist was trying to say. So, is there anything with that you'd be willing to divulge, or is that too personal a question?
It's not too personal. I mean, usually I'll tell people straight up what it is. If they notice it, I'm happy to answer. But I also think that the work kind of takes on its own life, and so what it means to somebody else that matters to me too. And I'm very curious about what they think.
The transition to the skulls. Do you think that I mean, it seems like a natural organic thing, but do you think that is in response to having to do with you do so many beautiful, so many cute, so many like bursting with life images? It seems like that's almost like a natural reaction that you're going to start, that you move towards death. What brought that sort of new transition? What was that inspiration?
So that's not necessarily new to me. I mean, it's
I
okay if
see.
it's others,
It's okay.
but there's always been like a bit of a dark side. I mean, I am who I am, and everybody's multifaceted. But yeah, so like I do enjoy a lot of stories with Grim Reapers in it, if that makes any sense.
That does. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a very big fairy tale. What are some of the myths that you were fascinated by growing up then? I'm interested because if you were into like, like the Egypt stuff, I mean, that stuff was grim. A lot of that was very
That's
grim.
great. I thought it was pretty great. Like I loved the myth of the story about the sealed letter and say Osiris. So basically, it's the very first time, like in any story that I can find, where there's a wizard battle. There is a straight up wizard battle, and it's between this Nubian wizard and the pharaoh's son, and it is just cool.
And what is it called again?
It's Say Osiris, or just sometimes called the sealed letter.
What is there, like a collection that you would recommend that would be like for a good place to start? Do you have like a favorite tome that?
I do have one, and I don't know where it is.
Okay.
So, do I have another one around here? Do you mind grabbing one from? There's like.
I saw Junji Ito.
Yes.
I saw Junji Ito. I love Junji Ito.
Oh, he's so much fun.
oh God, I mean, like, he's something else. I mean, that mind, it's you got to wonder what his nightmares are like, right? I mean, they're
I think he probably works a lot out in his
yeah,
books.
that's what. Yeah, I'm talking to when my first interview on the channel was with Vincent Prost, and I was like, "Do you like?" I was like, "What are your nightmares like?" He's like, "Oh, they're terrible," and I was like, Do you like exercise? Like when you paint it, is that a way of exercising it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely," but I've never really thought of it that way. But what do you like? Do you have dreams like where the images come to you, or do you have anything where like a painting arrives fully formed and you come out with it?
Yeah,
Bam.
absolutely.
Would you say I guess the easiest like professional piece that you did outside of the mermaid? What was like the most like just came out like butter for you? Like the easiest piece that you did that just gave you no trouble at all, and then conversely, one that you had to fight with to kind of get your point across.
Hmm. Well, if I'm going to go with something that's recent, I would have to say Rabbit Reaper. There's like a painting I did with it's got white bunny rabbit ears and purple robes. That one was super easy. It was just like breathing. Hard one that I can talk about.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I guess I wouldn't call it hard, but maybe we'll go with the second piece I got to do for Magic the Gathering, and it was Shauna Sasay's Legacy.
Okay.
That one was challenging because they asked for a stained glass.
Yes. Yes. I'd imagine that's
it's hard.
how did you do? Because again, your art's so incredible, especially to layman eyes, where I can't really tell what I'm looking at in a sense that I can't tell if it's paint, I can't tell if it's airbrushed, I can't tell if it's I am colored pencil. I'm blown out by what it is. I can't tell if it's digital. I'm fascinated to know. So how do you achieve stained glass without, having stained glass there to do it? I mean, that seems so daunting. It blows my mind that there are human beings that are talented enough that they can make stained glass on paper and have it work. It's like,
yeah, it's really hard as part of it is color theory. So getting colors to work together in a certain way over here and put them next to others might make this other one over here look like it's glowing. And it's hard to describe without showing you. And
that's fascinating. Okay. Wow. I mean, there's just so much that I guess for me that I can't lose a sense of wonder but there is so much knowledge. Like, how long did you go to school for, I mean, like the grand total of your years of school? Was it like it's a 4-year program?
It was only a 2-year program.
Only 3 years? God, wow. And you're as good as nuts. I mean, it's got to be talent too. It has to be talent. I mean, yeah, I know people say that talent,
self motivation that you got to do.
Is it a compulsion? It's a compulsion, right? You have to do it. If you don't do it, there's something wrong, right?
Yep.
Has there ever been a time in your life where art wasn't coming to you, like, as regularly?
Yeah. So when I was working as an art director, it was very, very time intensive. Basically, I worked salary and they just took every hour they could. It was ridiculous. And I had no time to paint, no time to draw for years. And that was not good for me. So.
No. And then when you do get back into it, how long does it take you to fully recuperate from the time that you lose to getting back to the rhythm that you were in prior to doing the artwork, on a daily basis?
Yeah. So during that time, since it was years, and that I was out of touch with my own art. And for, I would say probably about a good 5 years, all I felt was guilt about what I threw away, the time I didn't spend. And I just thought, this is where my heart is. This is where my life is. This is a reason for living. And here, what was I doing? Of course,
yeah,
like you do, but
But at the same time, you have to wonder maybe that time that you paid, like where you were in a prison, maybe it had an effect that brought out the vivaciousness of the work that you do now. Maybe being held back when the floodgates opened, it had an effect that, who knows, maybe might not have been available to you if had you worked steadily. I mean, I try to think positively, I guess.
That's a positive way. I hope it helped.
I mean, your art's bursting. I mean, I mean, look, there's a lot of I get a lot of tokens. I crack a lot of packs. I get a lot of tokens. Some of them, I'm like, okay, I've have enough of these tokens. But like the fish, I'm like, and I don't play fish often. Like, it's not really something that I'm not like a fish magic player, but I cannot bring myself to throw away the fish tokens when I get it. I'm like, I'll just like, I give it to my niece. She's like, this is the most beautiful fish. I'm like, it is.
Aw, thank you.
It is. It's great. And all of your stuff is original, right? Or is it is it digital? What's the story there?
I don't use much digital at all in my process. So
That's the smart. I think. Well, I shouldn't say smart, but
it's like
but
the
it
only
is
thing
smart.
digital that I do is sometimes I'll do color studies digitally.
Oh no! How dare you? I mean,
but
how
it's just
dare you
image
utilize that?
fast. But I work in oils, so it's all oils.
It's so controlled. I mean, how long does it take? How long did it take for you to paint the fish token? Like, what's your time frame?
So that particular one, when we got everything approved and I could start the painting, it was, probably 2 weeks.
That's insane. That is amazing because I mean, like, just looking at it, it is this. I mean, how for me, like the monkey with the like Crayola marker, I'm like, how did she color the same? Like, it's all one color, and it just blows my mind because like me with the marker, I'm like, oh, I did a double line. What's that?
Just meant I'm having Alex hand me one of my palettes. I'm sure that one will work. See, part of why I have like consistent colors is because I mix my own colors, but I do like giant globs of color, and like this one's still live right here. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, live. Oh, wow.
Yep, and it skins over, and all that's still alive and usable underneath. So.
Oh, wow. That must be stressful though, right? Because what happens if you get in a situation where you like are running low on that special color? But you probably know how to do it.
Mix it again.
You mix it again.
Yeah.
Talent. Oh, that's nuts. Okay. If you could invite, I mean, I know that you probably met a lot of people that you would consider your heroes that are alive today, but if you could invite any artist like that, has passed on from any phase in their creative life, over for dinner to really pick their brain and get to know them, who would you have over for dinner?
Artists that have passed on?
Yes, that you haven't had a chance to meet or get to. That you really would just like to sit there and pick their brain, or maybe just get flat out, just get drunk with them. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, that could be fun too. Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to, and it's tough to narrow it down, so I'm going to have to go with my top 3.
Okay,
so
yeah, you can have a dinner party.
Yeah, so maybe like Da Vinci and his master Verrocchio. Those guys would be kind of fun to, get drunk on some wine and hang out with.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see, more contemporary. I think it'd be neat to talk to Leyendecker.
Really? Okay. I've not heard that before, but that makes sense. That makes sense for you for as far as your lineage goes. Then I mean, I won't keep you for much longer, but I do want to know. I like this, putting it out there. If there was a magic card that you could do, if there a character or a type of thing or your dream magic card, if you haven't done it yet, is there one kind of character, creature type, or planeswalker, whatever your fancy, that you would love to do that you could do? Just what would it be? Who would they be?
Well, let's see. I mean, I would be happy to do any planeswalkers, honestly, because that would be cool.
And you could do it too. I mean, like Shauna, she looks great. I mean, like
Yeah, I think Liliana would be really cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would do a badass Liliana.
Oh shoot, why can I not think of his name? The white lion guy.
Oh, Johnny.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, you could
Um,
kill. Yeah, you could kill a Johnny. Yeah, I could see you doing a great job. And even I'd be curious to see you do Ashiok. The with the smoke coming out of their head.
yeah, that would be really cool. Heck yeah.
Because I'm curious. I love the notion of the dark Rhonda coming out, like
Mm-hmm.
the 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 sort of the things that you've been doing with your new work. I mean, it's great. What inspired really the like the casket shaped stuff? Is it part of like a collection of pieces that you're working on as like a theme? Is it an art book? Is it? I mean,
So the I guess the animal reapers, I'm kind of just considering them like a little exploration before I come up with like there's something more there that I want to make. That's maybe a bigger story about reapers because I think that they could view the living world from a vantage point that nobody else could, and I think that would be kind of.
do you ever see? Remember that show? Did you ever see the show Dead Like Me?
Yes, that was great.
It's like you do like an animal version of that. So are you working on like is those are personal pieces, correct?
Mhm.
Are you working on the our new Reapers now as we speak?
Yes, definitely am.
Yeah, what kind of Reapers can I ask? I'm nosy.
Well, I've got a sketch for a fox one, so that'll be really cool. Um, I've got another sketch for another ferret reaper, so that'll be pretty cute.
And you say, and when you say you have a grander scheme for them, you have a story? I mean, I'm assuming you have.
I have 3/4 of a story in my mind, so it's kind of butterfly wings on that.
I think that I see you like I see that working for you. I mean, I think that there are a lot of artists that are closet writers, and that they may be nervous about it, but I definitely see an illustration. I mean, you've been paid to illustrate books already. It's out of the realm of possibility. But is that something that you're actively pursuing? Do you think like you'd be once you get this thing on lockdown that you'd be like approaching publishing houses and going after that as a brass ring?
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that. Of course, like anybody, I'm nervous about my writing skills. My art skills, okay, I'm good there, but like the writing, oof, I don't know. I hope it's going to be good enough.
Listen, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Don't be nervous about your writing skills. And I'm telling you this as a writer. I have somebody who like that's my realm of things. So, by the way, and if you need anybody to ever like bounce ideas, I love reading stuff. I edit it, but for honest to goodness, you know, people who are as good and devoted at what they do as far as creative realms, there's no way that you're going to be somebody who's putting the work into what you do with art and then shitting the bed in another way. You know what I'm saying? It's real. You know what I mean? Like it's just it doesn't work like that. Like you just don't meet people who are like extraordinarily talented and then they try another thing that's adjacent to what they're extraordinarily talented at and they just suck. Like it's so I mean I get being nervous, but you shouldn't be. You should be like use your quote unquote use your celebrity because like you're around people who do this, who have like Adam Rex is like somebody who I can think of who's done books where his illustration like utilize it, talk to people because like chances are you are talking to an artist who has a secret novel like written. You guys could workshop each other. It's I'm telling you right now, you should totally do it. It's don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Before I let you go, I will ask you, what are you working on that you can talk about? And what if there's anything that you can hint at that is covered by the NDA? What would be some of that work?
I've got a new painting coming out for Everyday Original at the end of the month.
Nice, nice.
And I'll be at IX in Maine show this year, so I'll be.
That's awesome. Is that your first? You said first.
First floor.
That's
So,
That's a big deal, right?
yeah. So I'll be there and I'll have a whole bunch of cool stuff with me and hopefully some new paintings.
Do you on your like are you at the point where you take commissioned work, or is your schedule jam packed that you can't do that right now?
I can still schedule stuff in. Yeah, if they don't need it like right away, then I can.
Nice, nice.
So
And
yeah,
how
definitely.
if people want to do that, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best place to go to?
You can email me, Rhonda at rhondalibby.com, or you can talk to Donnie Coldwriter, especially when it's concerning like AP cards and those sorts of commissions. Definitely talk to him, and he keeps a schedule for me on those guys because boy, can that get out of hand.
Yeah, those things that they go like hotcakes, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, and actually too at IX this year, Donnie is going to be having another live draw AP event. So I think I'll be doing that. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing that. I better be doing that. So
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been great, and it's been enlightening to talk to you.
it was so nice to talk to you too. Thank you so much for inviting me.